Were you were you prepared to die at that point? Like, had you? I don't want to say the word resigned because obviously you're still fighting, but had you just accepted that then that may be the fate of you and your guys?
I think if I would have day one been inserted into that scenario,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think you, as a young Marine and all the training and everything you've been through, going into a deployment like that, you obviously don't know what to expect. I think maybe if you really looked inside yourself, maybe you were willing, accepting of dying, or maybe you weren't. But after 4 months of being there, and every single night laying my head down on my pillow and thinking, man, there's a good chance this is the last night I'm ever going to lay my head down and go to sleep on this earth. You know, once you have day in and day out, every single day of that, I think you just become more accepting of the potential consequences.
Right.
And, you know, I think with the training, the history we get taught, and all of these things, I think in a good way, you kind of feel invincible up until the point something does happen. And, you know, you're in such a surreal environment. It's like, you know, yesterday I saw my buddy get shot in the leg. Thankfully, he made it. You know, November 9th, one of my worst day, the worst day on my deployment. Like my squad leader, who I was on patrol with, stepped on IED.
Mm.
Immediate double amputee. 6 hours later, 8 hours later that night, one of my best friends, Dakota Hughes, middle of the night, stepped on a massive IED that rocked our compound almost a mile away that I was sitting in on radio watch, listening to the radio transmission of them trying to find pieces and parts of his body. So with things like that happening, it's kind of like, yes, I know I'm here. Yes, I know the consequences. But until you take that round or you step on that IED or something happens directly to you, it's not that you think, oh, this is not going to happen to me. It's just, it's almost too crazy and surreal to comprehend.
I imagine the mind. This is a defense mechanism in a way because if that's
Yes,
all you thought about, you wouldn't be able to do your job.
absolutely. It would
I
be
mean,
mentally crippling.
it would. You're in a horrific environment. Your brothers are being injured and being killed around you,
Hmm.
and if that's what you're thinking about, forget about the mission. You're you're useless at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
But yeah, defense mechanism, that's a great way to think about it and look at it. And, you know, another example of just how crazy it is, which this is a chapter in the book, but I talk about my 21st birthday, and it was the worst firefight of our whole deployment. And I just remember, you know, it was hours and hours of fighting, and it was when we got caught up in the woods fighting through, you know, those tree lines. And I remember we were crawling through a field, you know, straight up, low crawling on our chest and knees. I had my saw over my shoulder with the barrel up to not get it dirty,
Mm-hmm.
grabbing this arm, pulling myself through this field. And on the sides of all their agricultural fields, there's what's known as goat paths.
Okay.
And it's paths that the local populations take their farm animals on. Therefore, you don't have to walk straight through the middle of your field, potentially damaging your
Ruining your
crops.
crop, right?
So these paths, I mean, crisscross the entire landscape over there.
Hmm.
So a lot of times that creates a defilade, which is, you know, for people listening, if there is, you know, a berm or a hill and you're on one side of it, if whatever you're shooting at is on the other side and lower than that embankment, unless you're miles away and you
Right.
somehow
You're not gonna
curve
see
your
'em.
round down, you're not going to see them and you can't hit them. So we were in this defilade crawling through this field, and I just had this like crazy moment where I was like, happy birthday to me. You know, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to enjoy my first legal beer, you know. But
That's
even then,
crazy.
my emotion didn't change from having that thought to before I had that thought or after. It was just kind of like, oh, like that's an interesting fact. You know, it's so it's hard to explain, but I think just the best way to put it is it's so surreal, and the things that are happening to the people around you are so surreal. And just take that away, how you see the local population and how those people live and have lived forever, and hopefully not, but maybe will continue living like that. It's all just so crazy.
Yeah.
So crazy.